Welcome everybody. Glad to see a lot of familiar faces, and I'm also glad to see a whole bunch of people I don't know, which means the word got around pretty well for this, and it's very exciting. My name's Rob Notenboom. For those of you that don't know me, the reason I'm here is because I'm connected to this, I guess, because I'm part of the Voyageurs. Voyageurs are a supporters group that is clear across Canada that supports men's and women's national team. There are several other Voyageurs cohorts in the audience, which is exciting as well. Some who have come from distant lands, so to speak. I'm going to say a couple of brief words. I'll give you the names of these gentlemen first. I want to say a few words about our local supporters group, Pile of Bones, and then we'll get into the actual program. So, on the furthest from me is Mr. Joe. Oh, sorry, one other thing. I'm going to let them speak about themselves. So all I'm going to do is give you them their names right now. So Mr. Joe Mellon is farthest from me. Next to him is Mr. Paul Beirne, and then closest to me is Mr. Lee Genier. And these guys are going to talk about what they would love to do in the province of Saskatchewan. It's very, very exciting for the soccer community. Because I'm a member of the Voyageurs, and because Canada is a very small soccer community but with a lot of interconnections, the rumors of the Canadian Premier League have been on our minds for several years now. And so locally, several of us decided to start a supporters group, and there are several of these supporters groups across Canada for teams that do not yet exist in the league that also does not yet exist. So we were trying to be a bit ahead of the curve, and so we formed a group amongst those of us who knew each other, who are already in the Voyageurs, and knew that if there's a team in Saskatchewan that we would want to be driving the supporters section and driving that atmosphere in the stadium, and we created Pile of Bones supporters group. Now, there aren't very many of us because we've kept ourselves quite quiet, but we're hoping to expand and get some new people who want to be in a supporters group. For those of you that don't know what a supporters group is, the supporters are the people in the stadium that create the atmosphere. They sing the songs, they chant the chants, they bang the drums, they wave the scarves, they wave the flags, they blow up flares. It's the most fun sporting experience in sports. And some of the guys that have been in these sports sections will swear by that. So now, however, we realize that that's not everybody's cup of tea, but they still might want to be part of a supporters group. So, if you happen to be the type of person that would want to stand and jump up and down for 90 minutes and sing songs and have to be part of that atmosphere, or if you would just like to join into a song once in a while and you don't want to go full on, you are welcome in our supporters group. If you would like to be a part of this, if you want to start joining us, and we get together every so often mostly to watch soccer games, because of course we don't have a team yet, but that's going to change. There are three things that you can do tonight. Number one, I've spread little Pile of Bones business cards all around the table. If you flip on the back of that, there's some ways to contact us, and also ways to get more information about the league. The Canadian Premier League website is on there. Our Pile of Bones Twitter handle is on there. There's an email address on there, and there's also a Facebook group that just got over 1,100 people in it, of people in and around Regina that are in the Bring CanPL to Regina Facebook group. So those are ways to get a hold of us. Number two, I'm going to be leaving this around later tonight, just over here. I'm going to start an email list so that we can get a hold of you. If you want to be on our Pile of Bones email list, please put your name and email on our list. Easy to find, and then we will be able to get a hold of you. And last but certainly not least, we've got these dead sexy scarves that showed up in my house about 2 days ago, thankfully on time. And I know that I am biased, but we've got the best scarves. They are unbelievable. They're beautiful. They're beautiful. Look at them. They're great. $20 if you want a scarf. please buy one. We'll wear them around. Everybody can wear them in the Valencia game. They'll wonder who the heck we are. And then more people will want to buy more scarves, and I'll sell out with my giant box of scarves. So anyway, you'll have a chance to do this after the whole spiel is over today. So, you know, hold on to your money for just a few more minutes. Okay. That's all I wanted to say about that. So the way the program is going to go tonight is it's going to be a bit of a panel discussion. For the first while, I'm going to ask the questions. I've tried to assemble a list of questions that these guys want to talk about, but also that you guys might want to hear about. We'll go through that a little bit. After that, there'll be a chance for people in the audience to ask a few questions, and we'll do a little Q&A, public Q&A. And finally, I don't think any of us are running away after this. So, you know, if you're too shy to ask a public question, you want to ask a private question, we'll probably still be around later, and you can ask away. So that's how we're going to go. Okay. I haven't put anybody to sleep yet. That's good. Okay. So, Paul, can you introduce yourself and can you talk a little bit about your history and experience with some of the sports teams that you've been involved with, and also what your role is with the league? And
cool, happy to. Hi everybody, my name is Paul Beirne. Thank you, Boom Boom. I'm the president of the league, the Canadian Premier League. This is a new league that doesn't exist yet and hasn't been announced, but I'm the president of that. My background is 20 plus years in pro sports, 18 years with the Leafs and the Raptors in Toronto, and then I jogged around a little bit. I spent a year in Ottawa with the Senators. How can a Leafs guy go work at the Senators? Exactly. And then a couple of years in England with a club in the Championship called Brighton and Hove Albion, who just got promoted to the Premier League. Wow. You guys need to single yourselves out later, and I will come and hug you all personally. And now I'm very excited to be back in Canada. And you know, it's funny working in pro sports, working in, unfortunately, American leagues. 20 years of my existence, I was getting on planes and going to American cities to go to meetings and to watch games and to, you know, meet with my peers. And so it's a real privilege to be able to be flying east-west now in Canada, and that's something I'm enormously proud of. Is that everything that we're doing with this Canadian Premier League is about wrapping ourselves with the Canadian flag, and that includes meeting people like you. In cities all across Canada. So thanks for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
The way I've got my questions listed out, you're on the hot seat for about 10 or 15 minutes. So you may as well just hang on the mic.
All right.
And then we'll go
How's
to
my posture?
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about your experience with TFC, being an employee with TFC? And
I left that out, didn't I?
You did leave that out.
Yeah.
You did leave that out.
I was also the guy that started Toronto FC. We built BMO Field in Toronto. I ran that for the first 8 years, which were like the first 4 years of euphoria, and then what we like to call the dark years. I also was in charge of it then. And during the time at TFC, we also we realized that we had struck a chord or say a nerve in Toronto, and this sport was a lot bigger. And there was a lot more demand than what we expected, and that was very empowering. It allowed us to make a lot of investments into the game that fans in Toronto are now enjoying every week. So things like, we started with an artificial turf surface, and it had a bubble over it, and we used it as a community center in the wintertime. But because we had all this great momentum and we had, frankly, the money, we were able to convert the stadium to grass. So through that process, I became a certified agronomist. Anybody know what an agronomist is? I'm one of those now, or at least I feel like one of those.
Saskatchewan, right?
Yeah, so lots of technology in that field at BMO Field now, and Similarly, we built a training ground for Toronto FC and a home for their academy. That was another $20 million investment back into the game. And I'm wildly excited now at being able to see that type of impact take hold across the entire country. So that's really exciting for me.
Can you talk a little bit about MLS's evolution and how that speaks to particular things that are going to become important in the league and how the league is going to be set up?
Sure. In 1994, the USA hosted a World Cup, and part of their promise to FIFA was their legacy project was that it was going to be that there was going to be a professional league in America. So in '96, MLS started, and for the first 10 years, it was a very difficult process. They had a lot of ups and downs. They had contraction. They had some owners walking away and other owners buying clubs from the guy that walked away just to keep it alive in that city. And so Major League Soccer was on life support for several years around 2001, 2, 3. And then it started to come out of the woods, and they changed their business model. They changed the way that they were working with cities. You know, when they started, they were playing in NFL stadiums. They were playing on fields that had gridiron lines on them. And if you're a soccer supporter and you've ever tried to watch a game in that environment, A, the stadium was cavernous and therefore it felt empty, and B, the quality of watching a game on the gridiron was very difficult to watch. Around the time that Toronto FC came in, a bunch of changes started to occur. One is they started to realize that soccer-specific stadiums that are built for the game and also the right size for the game was fundamentally important to the success. Another thing that Toronto FC really helped move along was this idea that the stadium should be in an urban environment. It shouldn't be out in the suburbs. FC Dallas, they have a beautiful stadium and they have 17 fields around it. And it's in the town of Frisco, which is a full hour outside of Dallas. So how do you form an identity when you're not even in the community that you're trying to represent? So there was a real turning point around 2006, 2007, concurrent with when Toronto FC came into the league. Part of it was because of Toronto FC coming into the league. Part of it was because David Beckham joined the league, and you know, the most recognizable face on the planet joins your league. That's a game changer. And you know, since then they've gone from strength to strength. It's a very strong league. Nobody's questioning its viability anymore. And so if you now talk about the Canadian Premier League, we have the benefit of learning from all of the good things they've done and all of the mistakes they made along the way. And I don't need to get into the business details, but I can certainly assure everybody that we've come up with a solution to the business challenge that it is about. You know, this is a big country. We have a lot of miles to cover, and it's an expensive endeavor, and we don't have stadiums. So we've had to work long and hard to figure out that puzzle and to figure out how to make it make sense for owners across the country to be able to work with the community, to build a stadium, to create a team that makes sense and is in a stadium that's the right size, that's going to be able to have success right out of the gate, so that, you know, in 5 years nobody's questioning our viability, or in 2 years nobody's questioning our viability. It's a natural thing to question it at this point. We haven't even started yet. But we're very excited about being able to prove all the skeptics wrong right out of the gate.
You mentioned
based on your solution for starting a league, then how are you going to go about viability if you're not sure how to structure the league around this province alone? So if you're going to start the league, you're going to start a league for the whole entire province, and then all of Canada. How are you going to structure it here if you're not certain how to do that everywhere else, based on if everywhere else is a packed stadium?
Well, we're building stadiums. So sorry, maybe that was unclear. We do have some stadiums. So you know, when I said no stadiums, that was an overstatement.
For example, then where?
Well, we'll announce the cities when we're ready to announce them, but there are some cities that are being very public about their projects. So Halifax is one of them, Winnipeg is one, Hamilton is one, either Regina or Saskatoon is one. If you were to name 3 other cities that you think probably are ready for a Canadian Premier League team, I would suggest that those would be the ones, but I'm not going to confirm or deny any cities yet until those owners are ready and they have their project lined up. They have to work with their cities and landowners and governance and getting building permits. All that stuff needs to happen before people are going to be ready to announce. So that's the work that's happening these days.
You mentioned wrapping yourself in the Canadian flag, which I think speaks to one of the main purposes of the league. Could you kind of extrapolate on that a little bit for everybody? Why is the league necessary, and why are you starting it?
Sure. Canada is the highest gross domestic product country in the world that doesn't have its own domestic soccer league. We're a rich country. Now we have our geographical challenges, but the CSA has identified that their #1 strategic priority in order for the national team to ascend up the FIFA rankings is to give more opportunities for more young people to play at a higher level for a longer period of time, and that means a pro league. And that's, they are working with us to ensure that we're creating an environment that is aligned with all of the good things. We have almost 1 million players in Canada, over 800,000 playing up to a certain level. And then unfortunately, and Joe can illustrate this when he tells you his story, unfortunately after a certain point, a youngster has a decision to make about what they're going to do. And if you're a really good athlete in this country, and you're passionate about a lot of things, you make a decision at the age of 14 or 15 or 16, and a lot of youngsters feel like they have better prospects to go off in another direction. And the absence of a pro league here is it's like a dead end for them. So we're going to try and solve that. We're going to try and, it's on one level it's very simple. We're trying to create opportunities for more players to stay in the game longer, play at a higher level, and play in games that are meaningful, that are competitive, that are in front of crowds. All those elements contribute to the development of the player. And if you couple that, what we're doing within this league and what we're doing within the game, if you couple that with the changes that are happening globally within FIFA, and by that I mean the World Cup pool is expanding from 32 teams to 48 teams in 2026. And our region of the world is called CONCACAF. Today, 3 teams come out of CONCACAF and go into the World Cup. In that future state, 7 teams are going to come out of CONCACAF. So all of a sudden, we don't have to be the best in the world. We have to be top 7 in CONCACAF. And we think that's very achievable.
In May, there's the Canada Soccer annual meeting of the members. The league was approved, and the first 2 teams were approved, Hamilton and Winnipeg, which was big news, and news that a lot of us that have been following this for a long time have we're waiting for. Could you talk a little bit about what needed to be achieved in Hamilton and Winnipeg for them to be admitted as teams into the league, and thereby what other teams will have to do?
Sure. As the CSA are citizens of the global game governed by FIFA, and anything that happens within Canada needs to occur with the approval of CSA, and also they have a set of rules and guidelines that govern how the game is played that are handed down from FIFA. So really, it was just a box ticking exercise that says, do you have a stadium? Do you have an ownership group? Do you have a set of rules by which you govern your team or your club? And do those adhere to the FIFA guidelines? So it's not a hugely onerous set of hurdles, but we were very excited to have at least 2 teams match that or meet that standard. And when the time is right, we'll have, like I keep saying, we have 10 ownership groups, 10 teams across the country, and as these teams come together and they're able to demonstrate that they tick all these boxes, then we'll go back to a business model for them in that community that makes sense to allow them to build a stadium. So it's there's a lot of moving parts, but all of them are moving in the right direction, and all of them are moving a lot faster than people realize.
And you kind of answered my next question. You're reading off. Excellent. You're reading off my list here.
I'm kind of feeling sorry for all these people that have to look at this.
Well, yeah. I was going to say, I've heard this spiel on about 8 podcasts now, so this is, anyway, it still sounds interesting to me. Can you give us any update on the progress of league launch? I mean, the two big questions seem to be which teams are going to be in the league and when are those teams going to kick a ball in anger?
So I'm going to toe the company line on this. We are very excited and we have a very strong desire to kick a ball right after the World Cup in 2018. So that would be literally 12 months from now. I think the World Cup is on the World Cup finals on the 15th, so the 22nd would be the following Saturday. If everything goes according to plan, it's that day. However, we're not going to rush to it if we're not ready. So the more important principle here is that we won't launch until we're ready, and we won't launch with fewer than 6 teams. So we're gonna the ideal scenario is we launch with 6. And then the subsequent year we had 2 or 3, and then we just move from strength to strength after that. But if we're not, if we're not ready, then we're quite prepared to wait till 2019, because you only get one chance at a first impression. We have to launch in a strong fashion, and we understand that this is something that's been tried by smart people in the past, there's high expectations on this. We've got to get it right.
Can I hand it over to Joe? Now, just to reintroduce, since there's been some time, Joe Mellon. I'll let him introduce himself. And I mean, you've got an interesting backstory too in terms of player, and then what brought you to be interested in this league and the team in Saskatchewan. Can you talk a little bit about your history first of all?
Sure. So I'm a Canadian national. I grew up in a small town in southern Ontario called Port Colborne, a population 20,000, and grew up playing a number of sports, including soccer, hockey, tennis, and it wasn't really until about 14 years of age that I had a breakthrough in soccer and was invited onto the regional team in Niagara, and then later that year I was invited to the under-14 provincial team in Ontario. And then quickly thereafter was invited into the under-17 and ultimately under-20 programs, where I played for Canada and represented Canada in a number of different international competitions. I also continued on into the under-23 national team program. And then following the 1996 Olympics, where we failed to qualify, there really wasn't much in the way of a career opportunity in soccer. I certainly enjoyed the sport, and it was a privilege to represent Canada internationally. However, there wasn't really a great prospect for a professional career at that point in time. Fortunately, I took my mom's advice, which was stay in school while you're playing soccer, because you're only one injury away from ending your career. So I took that advice, and that was probably the best piece of advice I got from my mom. And I studied business at the University of Western Ontario during the time that I was training for the Olympic team between the years of 1992 and 1996. And when it became apparent that there was not much of a career opportunity for me in soccer here in Canada, I took my business degree and I got a job on Wall Street. And I spent the last 20 years working in investment banking and in private equity. With respect to my involvement in this league, I was approached by Paul about 6 months ago whether I would be interested as a potential owner in this new CPL project, which is really what it was back at that point in time. And it was a concept, there were some ideas, and we very quickly decided that Saskatchewan was a place that we really would love to have a team. And one of the first things I did was I contacted my good friend Grant McLaughlin, who's a Regina native. Grant and I have worked together for a number of years, and I just asked him point blank, Grant, what do you think about soccer in the province of Saskatchewan. And he said, well, to be honest, Joe, I didn't really know anybody growing up and playing soccer in high school. There may have been one or two people. This is a football province, this is a basketball province. You know, it wasn't really popular for me. And I think, speaking of Kevin Holness, who played together with me in Winnipeg, he can attest to that situation back 20, 25 years ago where soccer was very much the minority sport. But he did say to me that one of the things that you need to be aware of about Saskatchewan is that the people are really hardworking, they love their sports, and if they get behind a team, they're there 100%. So the key is developing a good team and a good product, and if you're there and you're committed to the people of Saskatchewan, the community, they'll reciprocate and do that. So recognizing that and understanding that about the people of Saskatchewan is really the lifeline of, I think, what is going to be a very successful franchise here. And we've been working diligently over the last 4 or 5 months to bring pro soccer here to the province. We're still considering both Saskatoon and Regina as cities. We think both are very interesting and viable markets for a CPL franchise. And as I said, we're really committed to moving this project forward. A key piece of that is the gentleman sitting to my left, Lee Genier. I'm a big believer that when you want to build successful organizations, you need 3 things. You need good people, you need a good strategy, and you need a good team spirit. And I think there's a lot of parallels with that in sport, and similarly in business. You need those 3 key ingredients. So we're trying to put those key ingredients together. All of it, I think, is that it's coming together quite nicely. We still have a lot of work to do, but we're very, very encouraged over the feedback and the response that we're getting from people across the province for a CPL franchise here.
You've mentioned in other discussions that we've had that one of the pillars of your whole plan has to do with stadium. Could you talk a little bit about what your plans are there and why that's critical to the whole team and the project?
Well, I've lived outside of Canada for nearly 20 years, and a large part of that in Europe. And so I've seen firsthand what soccer can actually do for a community and the keys to success in having a successful franchise or a team in these communities. And to me, the stadium is so critical to having the experience of watching a soccer game. And you know, I facetiously say that you could have FC Barcelona playing in a really bad stadium and you probably wouldn't attract that many people. So to me, having a proper stadium and a proper venue to watch the sport is really important because it goes beyond just watching the game. It's the atmosphere, it's the connection with the community, the social network that builds. And the only way you do that is with a proper soccer-specific stadium. And we think that that is a critical element to have in place in order to make soccer successful and to ultimately create a soccer culture, which when I look across Canada, there are a lot of individual soccer cultures here. People have brought their soccer cultures from other countries, but we don't yet have our own distinct Canadian soccer culture. And the only way that we're going to do that is by creating these types of experiences in stadiums, following teams, supporters groups, and that is really critical in order to be successful with this project. In terms of the stadium, what we're considering or what we're looking at quite an advanced stage now is about an 8,500 seat, what I call permanent modular stadium. The closest comparable to that would be a stadium that exists down in San Antonio called Toyota Field. That's an 8,000 seat stadium, also modular. The attractiveness of a modular stadium is that it allows you to grow into the stadium as more fans come and are attracted to your sport and to your team. And the other positive aspect of the stadium is that it's very cost effective. So the stadium that we're looking at building, which would seat 8,500, it would have VIP suites, it have a very professional look to it. And the cost of that is only somewhere between $15 and $20 million. I was at a recent visit at a similar facility in Germany, built by the company that we're working with called Nüssli out of Switzerland, who are the people involved. It would be incredibly difficult for us because we are still working on a stadium solution. The positive regarding the stadium plan that we have is because it's being built under a modular structure, the time to develop it is less than 12 months. So the lead time is not that significant, but what it does mean is that we're going to have to work very quickly and really be in position by late this year, early next year to start the work on the stadium in order to be prepared for the 2019 season.
Do you want to pass over to Peter?
Hi. First of all, I want to, before I talk about anything else, I want to thank Rob for putting this together. Give him a big hand. I want to thank a few people for showing up tonight. I want to thank everyone for showing up tonight. But we have Tracy Fallman, who is the CEO of Visit Regina here. We have Don Story from Saskatoon Soccer Association. Don? Canadian Soccer Association. As well, the Honourable Ken Cheveldayoff, who had to leave, who's been a great supporter, a great friend of mine, and as well, the Mayor Fougere, who had also head to another event. So I thank them for attending and being very supportive of our project. So, and O'Hanlon's for putting on a great for hosting us tonight. So thank you very much. So my name's Lee Genier. I'll tell you quickly a little bit about my history. I spent 19 years in the CFL. With a team a little bit west of here. We don't need to talk about them because that's old news. Like I said many years ago, they washed all the red and white off me. So spent 5 years with our Olympic bobsled team, and most recently I was brought the Rush here, and we won a couple of back-to-back championships. And I know how to throw one hell of a party, so. Obviously, you know, I was approached some time ago. Obviously, I left the Rush back in the middle of February for some family issues with my brother, and I think about 2 hours later, I got a call from the CPL and in talking about being interested in moving forward with this group, and obviously gave me the opportunity to be closer to my brother, and this is a very, you know, I was very excited about this program. So obviously I got introduced to Joe and Grant, and they, you know, and what this project could look like. Obviously they took a lot of interest in what we were able to do with the Rush. And create just an amazing energy, and that was really a testament to the fans. And you know, Joe would ask me, he goes, "What do you think of team in Saskatchewan?" And I said, again, I think it would be absolutely fantastic, and hands down. So, you know, to me, that's not an issue. I mean, wherever we have this team, it is going to be absolutely, like I say, we might start with an 8,500 seat stadium, but I'm going to guess we're going to have to expand that real quick. So, you know, I know what the fans of Saskatchewan are made of, what this province is made of, and the support. So, you know, I think, you know, it's hands down. There's, you know, and I keep saying this in interviews, I'm not a rocket scientist. That's clear. And, you know, there's north of 30,000 people in this province that play soccer. So that tells me there's a lot of interest. So when I brought the Rush here, there was about 1,500 people that played lacrosse, and that number has, you know, increased exponentially. So you know, you just look at the grassroots, what this does to a community. I anticipate that this will do great things.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. My name is Roger Reynolds from Net Deportes, netradioonline.com, Spanish network in Vancouver. My question for you, the game between Valencia and the New York Cosmos could be a very good start to see the interest of the people and the public in the city of Regina. Now, with the Canadian Premier League, how much impact or reactions do you think it would have considering Canadian teams playing in Major League Soccer?
Can you ask that again? I didn't quite get your question.
Okay, I will rephrase it. What would
Just
be
the last part? Yeah.
Okay, with the Canadian Premier League, how much impact do you expect or any reaction from the public that would have considering having Canadian teams playing in Major League Soccer, like a different type of league, the Canadian compared to Major League Soccer? That's what I mean.
I'll speak for the league. I think we wouldn't be having this conversation if the Canadian teams in Major League Soccer didn't exist. If Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver had not proven to the skeptics and proven to the world that this is something that communities want and can enjoy and will support in a big way. So I really do feel like they blazed the trail for us. And in terms of I don't think we're going to compete with them. We will compete with them on the pitch in the Canadian Championship, but in terms of for business as businesses or for players, I think we aspire to compete with them in the long run. But we're here for a different reason. We're here for we have a sense of purpose about developing the Canadian players and helping Canada improve. And at the end of the day, Major League Soccer is an American league. Their rules and their mandate, the reason they exist is about development of the American players. They just happen to invite Canadian teams to join them. But as you know, in FIFA, there are very few situations where a domestic league has teams from outside that nation, right? Monaco plays in the French league, Cardiff and Swansea play in the English league. But outside of those, there aren't too many examples of that. So I think, Toronto, Vancouver, and Montreal, they will continue to do what they do, and they put on a great event and a great show, and the football is getting